Hello everybody, and today we're going to be covering summoning, and well actually that's it. So before we start, I'm going to be prefacing this as a bit of a deviation from our normal format. So I've been meaning to do summoning for a while, especially now that somebody has sort of mentioned interest in seeing it. However, I was trying to think of something good to pair with this video. I was thinking of maybe doing something a little bit outside of dynamic effects, since some of the other things I could show you is sort of being worked on currently. I'm sort of in the middle of figuring out better solutions, asking around how to do them better. So today we're just going to be doing just summoning. So what I was originally going to do, just to give you insight into that, I was going to show you a module I made. So the module I made I should say made. I'm not great. I'm not great at like computer languages. Mostly, I can, if it's set up for me, tinker around with it then. But making it from scratch, just not my area of expertise. So the usual benefactor of these videos, Mr. T. Ponce, or Mrs. I'm not sure their gender identification, but they set up the module for me a while back, and then I've sort of just added to it from there. So what I was going to do was I'm going to show you that, because it's actually quite interesting. It's quite useful, really, as well. So we'll just show you what that does now. It lets me add my own weapon properties. So I use the expanded equipment book available in the DM's Guild. It's a great book. It adds a bunch of new sort of properties that do a bunch of different things, like different sized weapons made for different sized creatures that have their own sort of properties, especially when mixing with other sized creatures. Like a gargantuan weapon is not super easy to be wielded by a huge creature, and being wielded by a tiny creature is just nigh impossible outside of some magic shenanigans. Another thing I've done, which is what originally the module was for, is I'm quite fond of Warcraft. If you haven't noticed, by most of the icons I use, they're Warcraft based, and I run a Warcraft themed game. So there are two sort of damage types in the game that kind of stick out from other RPGs, which is Fel and Shadow damage, which I guess you could say Shadow damage is kind of like psychic damage and necrotic damage if it was kind of mixed together. Maybe just psychic damage in itself. I also added Arcane because it's another damage that's sort of its own thing in Warcraft lore, whereas in D&D, the Arcane sort of just refers to, sort of by its definition, which means, like, you know, the weird and the sort of unexplainable. So that's what that module does. Unfortunately, I couldn't get it working in a video because my video capturing software is surprise, surprise, nothing special. It's literally just the video capturing that comes with Windows. Since I've not looked much into this, this is sort of something I did on a spur. And unfortunately, that means it cannot capture. So it actually was hard just to set up to capture like a Chrome window in general, and it just cannot capture Windows Explorers as far as I could tell, which I would need to show you how that module works and how to set it up, how to add your own things. I'll look into it. So the only problem is the last time I used a different video software is it just wasn't great from a sound quality standpoint, and that was the Radeon one that comes with the Radeon sort of overlay. Now, I am not adverse to buying a video editing software. I mean, not video editing software. Sorry, a video capturing software, but it would probably not be anytime soon if I was to look into it. But for when that time comes, if anybody has sort of suggestions for great video capturing software, because I'm not well versed in this sort of community of tutorials and stuff. I don't know what the best items are. I'm not sure, what the Photoshop of video editing is. Probably something by Adobe as well, I would guess. But like I don't know, like, what is the best sort of video capturing software out there. But yeah, so I'm looking to, as more and more people find these videos useful, I am inclined more and more to, spending more time facilitating these videos via maybe learning some editing. It won't be anything fancy, but it'll be editing more than there is now, which is to say there's none. Yeah, and hopefully I can get to a video capture software that I can configure a little bit better, and maybe has a bit of better sound quality, and even from what I have here, maybe it can like reduce the noise in the background a bit without making me too quiet. Just something I think that Radeon was trying to do, because I have a lot of background noise, because my computer fans are quite loud, and I run fans like constantly in my house, because otherwise I die of heat stroke, because I like it cold. But no, so yeah, just give me suggestions down below, or if you know of sort of a way to get this software running on Windows Explorer, just for the meantime. Because I want to show sort of everybody how to make that module. I think it would be something different. But yeah, so in the meantime, again though, until I can figure out how to do that, go ahead and let me know really quick before we get into this video, any other modules that you would be interested in seeing working, or like tips on how to do it. Maybe there's something in MIDI quality you still don't know how to do. Maybe there is something here that you see that you would be quite a little bit interested in. There's quite a few great sort of modules I use. I could do a module overview on that, because again, I think that the basics in Foundry are covered quite well, but I think modules could use a little bit more love in the tutorial community for Foundry. There are some great people making some written tutorials, and a lot of these modules sort of have written instructions in their README pages on their GitHubs or their whatever sort of file hosting service they're using. Sorry about that. However, while that's great, I think some people are well versed to sort of understand a video, maybe more than they are to understand sort of instructions, especially when they're not sort of used to this whole kind of thing. So yeah, so do let me know. I have some great modules. I have a lot of modules, and if there's any modules that you maybe have seen, or maybe want to look over, and even if you haven't seen them here, let me know. I can look into the module myself. I can sort of ask around and sort of do all the information brokering for you, come back with a video. But yeah, so I've had a blast doing these. It's great seeing people find these useful. I've used these. I use videos like these a lot when I started getting into virtual tabletops in general, which was a while ago, back at the beginning of the year, and I started sort of at Roll20, where a lot of people start. And one thing that helped me is that, well, that community has a lot of videos, but unfortunately, there's a lot of other things that Roll20 just doesn't sort of exceed at, where sort of Foundry does. So I was, it was great to find Encounter Library. He's a great YouTuber. He does a lot of basic stuff. When I first got into Foundry, he was useful. However, a lot of things from Roll20 kind of transferred over a bit, and so quickly his videos weren't super helpful, especially since he sort of covers the basics. And if you need help with the basics, that's fine. A lot of people need help with everything. I've been doing virtual tabletops for a while now. I know how to sort of what to expect, so it's completely understandable that you're having trouble with it, and it's a bit easier for me to understand. But like, I've been doing a lot more, and I've been doing it like non-stop, because I've been having a lot of fun with virtual tabletops. It helps me play without my anxieties. So I think he is still very a required part of this, and I think that just because he doesn't choose to do a lot of module videos, I don't think he should if that's not his area of expertise and that's not what people come to him for. I don't think they should. So what I'm just doing is I'm trying to, until somebody better comes along, hopefully, because I'm not super great at this, I'm just trying to give everybody sort of like, you know, an all-in-one place to go for module videos. Yes, there's places you can go to, like maybe the creators of some modules to learn some videos, but just somewhere from a user standpoint, which I am. I don't have any, you know, I don't have super knowledge on this stuff. I know some, like I know if you present me with a piece of, you know, of a macro, I can say, okay, I can see what's kind of going on here, but I can't write them from scratch myself. I can sort of build on a framework that's already there. And so somebody like that, somebody who's not very smart, could do it. So that way, all you smart folks out there can definitely do it if I can. So that's sort of what I'm trying to accomplish here. But yeah, so without further ado, because we've been doing this for, we've been talking about this for 10 minutes. I meant this to be a smaller video because, you know, I only have one thing to show off, but there you go. King of Lego Talking Rambling at it again, making a topic that should have lasted, you know, like 4 minutes, last like 10. Okay, so we're going to be covering how to summon things, be it via spells or items. So right now I don't have anything set up for items. However, what I'm going to be showing you here is sort of like interchangeable with items. But if you have any problems, let me know down below, and I will sort of have a better understanding how to format these videos. But I think it should be fine as long as you sort of get the understanding of how they're working. In spells, you should be able to set them up with items, no problem. It is, again, interchangeable, but again, if you have a problem, let me know. I will fix it in the comments, and if you can't sort of figure it out by the comments, I'll do another short video, air quotes, heavily air quoted short video. But yeah, so without further ado, let's go ahead and start this. We're going to go up with maybe saving dancing lights for later, because it's a little bit more utility than other ones. So really, it's super simple. Let us just go ahead and open up Mage Hand for a second, and let's look at its active effects. Okay? So, when you click here, you will see that in the effects we have macro execute. So this is running off a macro, and we'll cover that in a second. Change mode custom, it has to be custom. So, effect value, you might be seeing something a little bit different here. What's going on here? So, this first line, summon, it is referring to the name of the macro that I'm using. I named the macro summon. At token, at unique are sort of just calls to sort of understand what it's doing. They call from within the macro. This is the name of the token that we're going to be summoning. We'll go over that in just a second. You want it to be under parentheses if there's a space in it. It's just safe to have a parentheses no matter what. 100 is the X and Y sort of like area that is going to sum them in. I always use 100, but you can change that up if you're doing something a little bit wacky or doing something very specific. And 1. So it's a great thing that I waited to do this video until recently, because very recently the very kind creator of this macro, or who sort of showed me how to use it in the first place when I asked him quite a while ago, and I sort of just never stopped asking him questions since. The poor guy. So he helped me because I was having trouble sort of summoning one creature, more than 2 at least, because anything more than 2 seemed to get stuck in the scene with reloading being the only way to sort of delete them. So, and it wasn't movable, so it wasn't playable. Yeah. This new numerical value, this 1, means how many it's going to summon. So you're always going to need to input at least 1 if you're summoning one creature. But if you're summoning more than 1 for any reason, you can set it up to sort of have a this way you don't have to sort of set them up with. So before I was setting them up multiple lines, and it just wasn't working quite right. So this is a little bit better, a little bit easier on the sort of processes that run this macro. It is a very process heavy macro, and sort of effect. So submit changes, even though we didn't change much. So let's go over one by one. Let's go over the macro. So this is the macro. It's a little much. So it's a script macro. That's important. You don't want it to be a chat macro. It just won't work. So chat macros are things like, say, /r 1d4. That's a chat macro. Things like that. Things that are like you sort of done in chat. Sort of like /emote. I can't spell today. Or type today, sorry. So this emote, sort of just says your name, walks away, play Warcraft, kind of like that. Those are sort of chat macros. Script macros are much more sort of the common kind of macro that you think of when you think macro. And they're very versatile, and they let you do a lot of things. In fact, I could do a whole video on macros in the future, though I would have to compile sort of more macros, since my macro list sort of diminished ever since 7.5, and a lot of things sort of got broken down. But I use a few of them, like invisible. You maybe saw it a few times. I press invisible, the invisible macro, and I can hide a creature token. Yeah, it's sort of just macros are very useful, and maybe they deserve their own video, though maybe somebody else has done it a little bit better than me. This will all, of course, be down in the description below, the macro. I'm not going to expect you guys to copy all that, do not worry. Next, let's go over, because I talked about tokens. So I have temporary combatant summons. These are all the tokens that can be summoned by sort of these items and spells and things I have. So obviously Mage Hand is going to be summoned by Mage Hand. And then one more thing we're going to look over. We're not going to do this for each of them, but we're just going to do it for this one more time. We're just going to cover one more thing to see sort of what the inside workings look like in the details. One action so most of the normal spell stuff, the only thing that matters is you want to make sure that it's targeted on yourself, because it's going to target yourself. Even if you can cast it somewhere else, you sort of can't do that, so you're just going to want to summon it and then move it to wherever you meant to summon it, if you meant to summon it somewhere else away from you. And that's sort of it. That's sort of all you want, that and the duration. So you just want self and duration. It's how long it's going to last, because these do actually disappear by themselves when the time comes up for them to disappear. So without further ado, let's go ahead and summon it. So you do want your target selected. It doesn't have to be targeted, but you just want it sort of selected so it knows that when you're casting this, you're casting it from this sort of token. So we cast this, and you see that we have this, and a little sort of icon there, which doesn't work because I pulled it directly from Wowhead. But normally, if it's a sort of token you use by yourself, it'll be that image there. So yeah, so you can move this around. I've not given them any vision, so that way, if, whenever you're using it, you don't have to worry about vision. But you can give it vision if you want to maybe do so. Make it 0 vision or something. I don't know. It's up to you. But yeah, so you can move it around, blah blah blah, and then in 1 minute, down here we advance 1 minute, it'll disappear as per the rules. So let's skip down to light because it has a little bit more mechanical use. So Unseen Servant is much the same way. Don't worry about this. This is just a token mold problem. See, token mold right here, it rolls. So it's a great module that sort of lets you have specific effects applied to your tokens whenever you summon them. So I used to use name. It'll add like a number if you add multiple sort of non-linked NPCs, so like kobolds and stuff like that. It won't do anything for your characters or for your BBEGs if you don't have it. If you have the settings so it doesn't affect linked. Because you probably don't want it, messing with stuff for your linked. You don't want, your main bad guy saying Volsothar 1, Volsothar 2, because you keep summoning him in the scene for whatever reason. But it could also be set to whatever your token size is. It'll automatically resize it for that. What I'm using it for, though, is just to roll health. So whenever it goes here, if you have a sort of numerical formula here for health, it'll roll that automatically. So if it was like, I don't know, like 1d4 and I summoned it in, it would roll for the health as so. But you know, I don't do that. There's no need. This thing isn't going to be hit. So I don't have a numerical value, but you'll get that pop up whenever you use it. In fact, I think token mode could actually use its own video in itself if you ever want to see it. Okay, so that would just be that. I think that's a minute, so let's just advance a minute. It's not. Let's see, how long is floating disk, so we can show you sort of unseen servant rather. Not sure which one I summoned actually. I think it was unseen servant. It's an hour, so let's go ahead and advance an hour. Messing up my time in the place. My players are coming back to a whole day later, but it's fine. That's fine. Let's go. Oh, sorry. Let's go ahead and select it, then summon it. So we have Tensor's floating disk here. I just call it floating disk since I run my own sort of world. What I've done here is, the reason it kind of looks a little bit weird, it's 0.7 in size. So that way it's sort of not taking up a whole token space, but I like to do that for like any sort of characters, say like a halfling, a human, and a gnome. They're still technically taking up a space, you know, a medium person space. See, they're still at 1, but I've just put this down like a point. In the case of a gnome, 2 points, and it sort of just adds a little bit of extra flavor. So maybe that's a little tip for, you know, those of you that want sort of a gnome to be smaller, but not mechanically smaller. So not as small as, say, a token that's small, but a bit smaller than a token that's medium, or maybe a token that's, you know, a point lower than medium, like a halfling. Alrighty, let's go ahead and floating disk lasts for an hour. Man, really killing my time session. So actually, this is a good time to show you that you can just delete it, and it will go away as per normal if you don't want to ever advance time and such. Spiritual weapon. So these spiritual weapon and guardian of faith are a little bit different in how they work. Sorry, just click this first. So you see that this is this actually has its own character sheet, where I actually have the weapon, the damage from the spell sort of in here. So I took all damage from the spell and threw it away. I just threw the damage away. There's no sort of need to have that. It sort of will try to do damage and all that. It's not great. So what I do is I just have the damage that this thing uses here, and I have this 20-foot movement because it can move 20 feet. On, you know, the summoner can command it to move up to 20 feet on its turn, and it can use this attack, which is set up just like a, you know, spiritual weapon attack. So, and then finally, let's go ahead and check out, not finally, but let's go ahead and check out, oops, I keep forgetting this. So this one you can set anywhere, just like spiritual weapon. I have guard, which is the name of I just named it the sort of the attack that it's meant to do. And I believe that, yeah, so it's a dexterity saving throw, so I have the dexterity saving throw, and I have it set up to whatever my summoner is, since it can't sort of do it automatically. Maybe it can, oops, didn't mean to do that, but that's fine, we're not going to do that anyway, because this thing is summoned for quite some time. And that's sort of just, the macro's up there because it couldn't take care of the token, because I accidentally deleted it before that. But that's not going to mess up your game, so if you end up deleting the token before the time runs out or something, you get that error. It's just saying that it couldn't find the token to delete. It's not actually messing anything up. Finally, let's cover dancing lights. This one's a little bit different as well. So what it's doing is it's summoning 4 little lights with the correct sort of lighting set up for it. So let's just go into dancing lights, and all this is just like before, except for 2 things. Inactive effects, instead of, oops, sorry, I always do that. Instead of inactive effects, instead of 1, we have 4, so we summon 4 tokens of this sort of item, of this actor. And then the actor, obviously, should be pretty obvious. I just have it set up to emit dim light in 10-foot radius. I have it colored too, just to make it a little bit more aesthetic. I think I'm not sure if I decided to go with it, but originally I did have a very slight, so I have a very slight animation called static blur, which comes from community lighting, which is a sort of adds extra lighting effects. In fact, that's another video. It could be entirely done on that because it has a sort of lot of other lighting. And if you see audio fade, audio pulse, it can have lights that are set up to change and sort of, animate with music. It's actually really cool. It's something I use for, say, lightning. I have like scenes set up so whenever I play sort of, this lightning sound, the light sort of flashes across the scene. And oops, I did it again. My bad. Let's go ahead and take concentration off. But yes, so that is the sort of basis of summoning tokens with dynamic active effects. It's very simple. I sort of just showed you a bunch of the same scenarios, maybe with just some very small differings, but pretty much anything you want. If you just want to summon an actor with a spell, that can be used as long as you have that macro in place. Hopefully this video was okay with it only covering one subject. It might have seemed like I covered it for a little bit too long, but maybe I gave it a little bit more justice than maybe this would have gotten if it was cramped with another video. What do you guys want to see next? I'm really curious. There's plenty of other things I could show you in dynamic active effects. There's very specific sort of niche things that I've not done yet. In fact, there's things like, now this would have to wait because I am looking, because it is kind of broken from 7.5. But once it's working, I have a sort of a spell for chromatic orb. Sort of that whenever it's cast, it gives me an option, a little pop-up option saying what damage type do you want to use, which is useful for midi quality because it has the resistance and immunities thing. It does it automatically, so it's useful to have those up to deal that kind of damage when you're going to do it. But I think I might wait to do those kind of videos until I have the ability to do other optional things. I'm looking into sort of, with the help of the community, of course, learning how to do sort of optional spells like how to, whenever you click enlarge reduce, it'll say do you want to enlarge or do you want to reduce, and when you click it, it'll enlarge and reduce the token by that by the rules. I'm looking into all that kind of stuff, but yeah, it'll be interesting. When I get that working, I'll definitely do a video on it. But until then, maybe you guys want to see something from another module. Do you want to see maybe how to do teleporting? I have a vast network of teleports set up via multi-level tokens. I can also show you other use for multi-level tokens. It's a very great versatile module. It's I would even call it one of the sort of pillars of modules, like one of the need to haves. It's just so useful in a lot of situations. But yeah, so if you have any specific requests, be those different modules, maybe something in midi quality or within dynamic active effects, maybe you want to see something focusing entirely on how this calendar works, how to set up holidays, how to set up recurring events to maybe remind you to, hey, make sure your players eat their rations for the day, make sure they eat their share of water for the day. You could have it set up to do every 24 hours, sort of a reminder. Every 24 hour in-game, not every 24 hours outside the game, so every 24 hours, this how to set up your own seasons, how to set up temperatures within those to be used by the weather bit here. Just let me know what you want to see next. Hopefully this video was helpful. Again, if it wasn't, let me know down in the video below. Maybe I can help you out in the comments. And then again, just let me know what you want to see next. I have no problem with it. I have a lot of fun doing these. Don't worry if it's a very specific request. I'll do it. I don't mind. I know the struggle of sort of doing learning this, and I'll try to do it as quick as possible because I know you're asking like a YouTuber like, oh, how do I do this? And by the time they answer, it's the morning of their game, and it's like, well, thank you, but I gotta play now. And when somebody's a bigger YouTuber, that's it's unavoidable. But I don't have a lot of viewers yet, so I can answer those questions quickly, and I can answer those questions via a video very quickly as well. But yeah, so hopefully this helped. I'll be signing off now. Everybody have a good one. Hope you enjoyed.